Hello, 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 and welcome to Money, Sex, and God. This is your host, Genevieve. I'm super duper duper excited to be bringing all of you back Money, Sex, and God. If you are coming in and saying hi, make sure to say hello. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know how you're feeling in your body tonight. What is up for you? I've missed you guys. I'm really, really happy that I get to do this again with everyone. I've taken a few months off, so I'm really stoked to be here with you. Let me just check all our technical glitches and make sure that we were all set up. Yes. And I am super excited about who we're going to be bringing on tonight. There he is, the man. Awesome. So I want to just tell them a little bit about you before we dive in. Is that okay?
That's fine. Perfect.
Awesome. So I was really drawn to you because of your story of how, you're going to tell your story, but just the basic points here that I want everyone to really listen into as they're watching, how to transform your entire life through coming back home to who you really are, right? Coming back home to your body. And so, Keith, can you introduce yourself a little bit more about like who you are in the world? And I'd love to hear some of that journey too. And thank you so much for being here. And it's great to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. It's a pleasure. Like you got my attention by I'm trying to share it to my page, like you asked.
Awesome.
You got my attention with how you were speaking about certain things that I feel needs to be on the forefront when it comes to topics. And that's how we're relating to one another. I think that's the base point of like learning how and creating a formula of problem solving.
Yeah.
Because I see an inability in our society to actually look at a situation and begin to build this emotional maturity, vocabulary, even to be able to have like just positive, constructive conversations.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you drew me in like that. So I appreciate you and the wisdom that you put out into the world. Now, for me, how I got on this journey.
NFL, like what a crazy story. Tell us the crazy story.
It's so simple and chaotic at the same time. I used to get paid to hit people and hit them hard, and I was really good at it. And now I go around the world saying namaste and peace and all that. It's like, how funny is this creator or this God, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that's how I started. I took on that gladiator role, that alpha male, and it brought me to a place. My last season, I played 8 years, 6 years in New Orleans, a year in Houston, and then my last year in Jacksonville. On this particular play, like I said, I was a linebacker. I was all pro at my position, so I was very good making a tackle. I had made like so many times. And on this particular play, I hit the guy, the running back, and I'm on my back. And my body's not moving. And I've never felt this before, or it's really interesting when you talk about feeling, because I didn't feel anything, but I knew I was in trouble. That's like an epiphany in itself, and you don't have control of your body. It's like, wow, I never knew that could happen, because we think we're so strong. We think we're indestructible, and we are to a point, but then there's a reality. And my body came to a reality that day, and it's like, we can't do this anymore. And I began to break up with this idea that I had of myself as being this collision person, this football player, this alpha male, whatever it was. It was coming to a stop, a halt. And I was diagnosed with spinal contusion. I was paralyzed. I suffered paralysis from the neck down. And in that, I had my own quarantine. I had my own self-realization. And it's brought me to, through that experience, allowed me to be and do the things, I call it the human development that I never got, that allowed me to develop and be this human that I'm proposing. And I feel you're proposing the same as well to everyone, that we have the possibility to be.
So can you give us a little bit of the dirt of who you were before this happened?
Well, okay.
I mean, I know none of us know you as
like
this,
it. No, it's good. I think it'll set a tone here. Well, being a pro athlete is everything that they talk about. So I had like I had a lot of things accessible to me. And one of those things that was really accessible to me was women.
Yeah.
And I got to play different roles of the woman, like of the man in the relationships with women. I got to be the dominant one, and I also got to be the receptive one, because I had a lot of women trying to persuade me to go out with them, which is a very interesting question I ask a lot of women. And that question would be, I'm just going to put it out there because since we're going to stir the pot a little bit tonight,
Yeah.
what have you ever done to get a man to want to sleep with you, be with you? And that's a different, interesting question, right?
Yeah.
So I got to play both roles in that sense.
Yeah. And I'm guessing like readily available, right? Like you could just
Yes,
go and shop whatever was desired at any time. Was it like,
like
so
like
how did that feel? Like, what was that experience? So I'm a former sex worker. So it was a similar experience, sort of, right? That I was
yeah,
kind of getting whatever I wanted whenever I wanted it.
yes,
But for
yes.
me, there was something lacking.
Hmm.
And I'm curious if you had that, if you were aware of that experience during that time or not. Like
Well, I think
moments of emptiness that hit for you.
no, I know where you're going with that. It was just lacking substance.
Yeah.
It was more like the calisthenic. It was more like I'm going to hunt this and I'm gonna get this and I conquered it and that's it. And just like anything, really realizing that that's not going to serve your ultimate purpose. You're going to be empty, like you mentioned, and then that, in my opinion, begins to make you grab more and do more and be more, excessive out there. So I relate to that. But
Yeah.
on the flip side, you begin to take in, I call it market research, a lot of data. You get to take in all these different personalities. And when you put mindfulness with it or contemplation, you get to begin to add it up and it begins to be very interesting.
Yeah. Like you're getting a survey, right, of what's going on
Yes.
out there. So this emptiness, I love what you said there about like emptiness causing a seeking.
Mm.
Right. And
Yeah.
I remember the same, like I'd go and I'd work a night and I'd have thousands of dollars in my pocket, right? And I would go buy shit tons of shoes and all the party stuff. And
Yeah.
it was like the next day I'd wake up and do it all over again. Like there was no end point for
Yeah.
me. Right. And did that happen to you too? Just like it felt like a hamster wheel of like, when can I get, what were you looking like? What do you think you were seeking? Was it validation? Was it love? What do you think?
Well, it's ultimately that connection that we long for. I feel we do all these other things, but the reality is we just want to be heard, seen, talked to, connected with, and we want to be open to it. But for whatever reason, we are being conditioned to build walls and inhibit the connectivity, shut down our voices, and be more in our inadequacies and things of that nature. And I feel we wanted we definitely want the opposite. I know I did, and I still do that today. This is why Tantra is like, in my opinion, the glue to all of this. It makes all of this make sense.
Yeah. And you had an actual, so tantric alchemy, I speak a lot, right? In my courses and my webinars and everything I'm doing. And tantric alchemy is literally taking pain and turning it into pleasure and possibility and infinite self, right? Infinite oneness. And you actually did that because you were in total fucking pain, I would guess, for a long time. And you alchemized. Can you tell us about what was that process like when you were in that pain, and how did you get to, I mean, you're joyful now.
Yeah.
And you're near death.
Yeah. But I like how you just explained that, because I talk about that in a different way, but I never looked at it as the experience. But I can see how you because we want to go into the victim, right? When things happen, we want to go into the victim, and we want to stay there. Poor me, why me? And I did for a minute, but for me, I was introduced to conscious breathing. And how I teach conscious breathing is a way ultimately we begin to be more intentional and less reactive. We begin to go through a processing mechanism before we react. And therefore, it builds emotional maturity, in my opinion. Therefore, it begins to also build an emotional vocabulary to articulate ourselves. And I didn't have that initially. So then I began to realize, okay, see my life, what do I want? What do I want to create going forward? Because I knew the things that were holding me back would inhibit me to be healed.
Got it. So you started to really create your life, right?
Yes.
Is your life went to ground zero, I would guess, right? Like football
In my
player.
mind.
Right.
In my mind, yes.
Good point.
In my
Right.
mind, because I still had succeeded. I had done everything. I had, it was just how I chose to look at it. And this is why I like how what you just mentioned is the ability to perceive a situation, and you've been conditioned. It's like I look at it when a child falls, for instance, and it makes a loud noise, and the child starts crying because you react to it, not because the child actually felt the pain from the experience, but we've been conditioned to see, okay, it's not like it used to be, therefore I should be sad or I should be miserable. So when you just said that, it really made me think how we have the ability to hone that energy to make it more of a positive and realize how we can overcome. And I think I like how you just mentioned that.
Yeah, I'd love actually to just take a moment to speak to the viewers, because those of you that are watching, feel into like where you're conditioned in your responses to other people, right? Like I know in sex, we've got all sorts of conditioning around that, right? How we're supposed to react when someone says no to us.
Yes.
What do we do, right? Do we hold our own? Do we breathe through it? Or do we get defensive and go into our trigger spaces, right? So just take a moment, those of you watching, I'd love for you to type in like where some of your conditioned responses are around relationships, so you can start to be involved in the conversation. And you'll see later the comments are so dope from these podcasts. They're so much fun.
Awesome.
So I would love for it to talk about like, you got to this space where you started to be able to do this deep breathing, which all of this is sex. For everyone watching, this is tantric. Totally. It's tantric principles, right? Yes. That you took out of the sex place, but it's the same. It is sex, right? When you're breathing, you're fucking the universe. Right?
So true. So true. I mean, everything that's orgasmic is prana, it's life force, it's energy, it's oxygen. So all we're doing is fueling ourselves with the most. If we think our thoughts, if we think our words are powerful, well, wait till you tap into your sexual energy. That's the creativity that we've been missing, And that dynamic, what I've learned through my practice, and it's allowed me to create so many things that I never thought, and starting with myself, the creativity through me, that's birthed through me, that masculine feminine principle within me, as that's being able to birth.
Break that down. Everyone always has questions about that. How do I have the masculine and feminine within me, right? And I have my answers, but I want to hear yours. What dropped in for you when you were in creation? How do you go through that process for yourself, the masculine, feminine?
Well, the very interesting thing is, is the feminine principle is the nurturing one. It's the ability to come and sit with myself and forgive myself. It's compassion, it's patience. It's allowing myself to make and stumble and realizing I don't have to beat myself up. It's okay. That's the feminine principle that we have within us as men. And so when we allow ourselves to develop, because even as the hardest football game in the trenches, the alpha males, we don't play that game in brute force. We play 80% in the feminine, which is the finesse. If we had to go around in this brute force, like the 20% masculine, we'll be exhausted. We wouldn't make it 4 quarters. And I think that's what how we show up in life a lot of times too. And it never gives us an opportunity to develop in this whole other space that we haven't even scratched the surface on.
I just got a little ding, ding, ding. Sex, right? Think about how the masculine is conditioned to fuck.
Yes.
Brute force, one and done, right?
Right.
Speak to how can I ask you how your sex has changed? Well, are you open to like talking about
that? Let's do it. Like, but I like to propose because I want them to, as we're having the conversation, come in with us. And what I ask men to think about, what happens when you change and you take away the destination when you're having sex? It makes you do something else. It changes your focus. You have to begin to look at it in a different way. Now, the problem is we were never learned what sex was, what intimacy was. And so we went out not knowing, we took on roles, we had experiences, and we began to create ideas about ourselves and say, I'm this way, I'm that way, I don't like this. but we haven't even given ourselves a chance. Who taught you how to touch a woman? And for the women, who taught you how to touch a man? We didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so we go out and make all these, again, we make these mistakes, I call it, and we don't even give ourselves an opportunity to grow, to learn. And it just takes us out of balance, in my opinion. So I guess I answered your question a little bit, but I can go more. I know what you're looking for.
Let me just cap what you just said.
Okay,
I'm hearing something I talk about a lot, which is disidentification, right?
Yes.
Like release the identification of this is what I was conditioned into believing I'm supposed to do, right? So for me, whenever I say I'm that or I am not that, that's a red flag for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, fuck, that's an area I don't want to look at. That's an area I don't want to master and evolve into. And tantric mastery, right, is about how can we flow with all the energies, all of it.
Yes.
They're masculine, feminine, dark, light, up, down, whatever, right? Because then everything's available, right?
Everything,
so I just want to just want to shelf that because that felt really powerful, and that I'm glad that you mentioned that. But sex, what's it like for you now?
So I've been, the practice, I guess, brahmacharya. I've been practicing that for several years. And for the people, it's not having a physical orgasm, or, it's monitoring how much you have a physical orgasm, but you're still having the energetic orgasm. Therefore, you can use that energy to do other things. You can heal your body. You can regenerate tissue, muscle, different parts of your body. The brain, you can, again, like we've talked about, the magic that happens, the creativity with Shiva, Shakti, the masculine, feminine principles coming together in that sacred geometry, allowing a reality to be birthed that goes way beyond another human, but a reality. And that's what, again, I feel that's missing on this planet. And it's the malnourishment of that human connection.
Yeah. And I would even go so far as to say that when you shifted, it was your connection with yourself.
Yes.
That shifted first, right? So human connection, not just with other, right? But with self. So can you tell us a little bit about your self? So we're all doing, my tribe, my circle, I'm not calling them tribe anymore. Circle is, we're all doing a self-pleasure challenge at the end of the month. And I do this to teach people that you can touch your body differently than just like getting off, right? There's a whole way of being with the system and being with your energetic system, of healing your body. So what's your self-pleasure practice like? What do you do? I'm guessing it's like yoga and meditation, but tell me.
Well, I studied under Mark Tartia. I studied under several, Sasha Cobra, Sam Isadora. We were partners for a long time before, she transitioned. Nityama, amazing teachers. And I wake up in the sun. My bedroom is on the east. So where the sun, one on the west, where the sun rises, and I, in the sun, I have a big believer of putting your prostate, your lingam in the sun, and as the sun rises, I'm bathing in it, and I may do some of the practices Mark Tachia speaks about as it's the stroking, but then you hold, you don't, you go to your edges in the various different directions, and that's a powerful practice because that puts you constant in your practice. So therefore, when you have the experience, you have the engagement with someone, you're not just like in that oversensitive, position, and you're like that, so we have to build that stamina to create and go into these edges that's possible for us too. So it's a practice.
And my experience is that the more that you nurture the self, right, the self-sexual practice, you're not looking for the other to fulfill you, right? So there's that releases the seeking, the destination that you were talking about, right? I have a little bit of a joke question for everyone watching. Type in if you can guess Keith's blueprint. It's pretty fucking obvious. Do you know about the erotic blueprints? It's pretty clear. All right, we're gonna talk later. I'm gonna figure it out for you. But I'm pretty sure they're all like, yeah. Okay, so they get it. They're in it. But I have a feeling that you're an energetic blueprint, which means that for you, you're able to feel oneness, right? And that full resolution just through breath or light sensation. of the body, right? That's all that's needed to fill you.
Yeah.
Right. So I love that. Thank you for sharing. I thank you for sharing your self-pleasure practice with like
Yeah,
thousands of people. I appreciate you.
Thousands of people. Yeah. Thank you for putting me on the spot, but it's okay. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here, because I love it. This is conversations, again, we all need to have. So I love it. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Totally. So, what happens when, in your experience, when we're not getting the connection that we so desire, right? You speak a lot about like this, the relationship and sacred union and Tantra, and what starts to happen to the adult psyche when that's not running and we're not getting that anymore?
Well, just like anything, we begin to compensate. And then these begins to create and birth the addictive behaviors, the personality traits that we take on, a lot of anger, a lot of quick temper type things. We begin to take that on. And it's simply because we're malnourished. It's the same way when you're hungry, right? And you're starving, and then someone is approaching you, and then you have that fight, you just go off, you're on the edge. But then when you eat, you're calm. Yeah, hangry. But then when you eat, you're just calm down. You're like, okay, whatever. So that dynamic of being, unfulfilled, we start acting out of nature.
And do you believe that there's a tie-in between that and what's happening in the world?
Of course.
Can you say more about that? Yeah.
Yeah, because we're, there's so many ways I can go with this. And it's just lack of knowledge. We're discovering like the predicament that our education has not taught us, and it's like we're having to battle this dissonance of what we feel we know to realize what we don't know. And it's just us fighting for these positions when, even like the perspectives of it, like I mentioned earlier, like it turns into a calisthenic. The intercourse, the orgasm has all been conditioned to us. And all we really want is just to be hugged. All we want is to be just like sat with, listened to, and it's just simplicity. But because we like, oh, it can't be just so simple, we go out and then we want to tie each other up and hang each other up by that's cool too.
There's nothing wrong with tying. Hey,
I'm into shibari.
I'm
starting my practices. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's like we got to start here, and then we also have to finish there, because that's what it's about.
And what is finish? What do you mean by that?
When we start in love and we end in love. And I'm not saying all the other things in between aren't love. I'm just saying that it stays in that nature, and how we're interacting with each other. We stay in the nature of love, and allowing that to happen is really what because really sex to me is a meditation. Sex to me is a prayer. Yeah. Right. It's a sacred practice. And it's just identifying that and bringing it. And again, like I said, we're sitting on this Ferrari and we're going around like a Volvo. We need to get out of that and get into a freaking like a jet. We're sitting here doing stuff that's like barbaric and like, yes. I mean, how are we, like 5 years old? Like you get someone can you explain sex, articulate sex to me? It's like they don't even know what to say. They don't have the words. And the ladies who are listening, if a man can't articulate it to you, he definitely can't show you.
Yeah. I love that you said the car reference. I always say, like, why do I care so much about people having an orgasmic practice, right? And shifting their lives with Tantra? It's because we're all superhuman and we've forgotten. Like superhuman meaning that divinity, right? Like we're all just one thing and we've forgotten. And when we remember that one thing, the superpowers come out, right? Yes. What are some of the I've had fun superpowers, but what are some of the superpowers that you've been able to create in your life since finding this in your body?
I mean, the sex magic creates so much. I mean, it's got me to, again, heal, realizing that and begin to allow me to be the student. And then from being a student, creating my message, realizing my story, realizing where I've been, and to be unapologetically about it, to see it clearly, just straight up and down, as raw as it is, and make my story, allowing that to be the medicine to share to the public, which that's taken me to the White House to the UN to all over the world. I have a book coming out, the Mindfulness Playbook, things like that. I mean, I would never have thought in a million years that I would be doing, but those superpowers are available for everyone. It's just accessing it, to channel it, to learn, to hone it, and you'll be amazed what can come out of it.
Yeah, I love that you said that. I think a lot of people think that because of their external circumstances, right? That like you and I, sure, we can go and create the lives we want, and they can't for whatever reason, right? And
Right.
I like on these talks to really get people to understand, like, we're human, like there's a humanness about us, right? And
Of course.
we had to train our bodies and our minds and our spirits to remember that we were love.
Totally.
And I'm guessing
Totally.
for me, it wasn't like super duper duper easy. Once I found the key, it was, but
Right.
it took me a while to find the key.
Yes.
Right. Any words of wisdom you have for those people who are like, nah, I can't do it. Y'all can, but I can't.
Well, the only thing different, in my opinion, from the student to the teacher is the teacher can again share themselves unapologetically and have no like resistance to it, just to let it all out. And the student is working to build to that. But when they realize that key you're talking about, when they realize that they don't have to hold on to it, but their story is actually the medicine for the people who are thinking that they're the only ones that are going through what you went through, now you begin to release a whole nother reality, and you begin to step into your power and do everything in your power, because you can't do this side of the game one way and then over here just like fall off. You gotta, you know what I'm saying? It's a 360 approach. I call it mindfulness, to living this way. And that power, again, like people's words to you, if you're like, I challenge people in this sense too. If you claim to be a powerful person, or if you desire to be, well, someone over here calling you names or saying words about you, well then if that takes you out of your power, then you're not that powerful. No one can hold your power. You have to hold that. Therefore, anything can be done. People can say what they want to say. You know who you are. You stand in your own validity about who you are. Therefore, you hold all your powers, and you're bigger than all of that. That's what I want the world to know. And through this way, we call it Tantra. In my opinion, we can go there. We can go there and create that. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know what I do? A little trick that I do, I tell my students all the time, when I look at someone and they're saying things that are, mean or whatever, judgmental toward me, I'll look at them over there and I'll go, look at me over there. Look at me.
Yeah.
There I am.
Yeah.
And I get really curious. I'm like, what am I doing over there? And I just see them as love. Right?
Yeah.
Because I already know that you and I are one being. I already know that everyone watching is one being. And I don't only know that in my mind, but I feel it in my body.
Yes.
And that's, I think, such a huge key, right? Because for your story, you went from your body being like a robot in the NFL, right? It was like, just do for me what I need you to do, right?
Right.
To now being like incommunicado with your spirit. You're in this dance with it. I don't even know if it is a word. I've made that shit up.
I love it.
Right? But like, that's the power that you're speaking. In my opinion, it's that internal flow channel that creates that everywhere else in your life, right?
Yeah. And that's brilliant. I love how you put that. And I guess, and the reason why I even mention it in that formality is because, in my opinion, through the relationships, as I see it, is there's a lot of things that we want to do, we want to say, to engage our partners in, but we hold it. And that unspoken word begins to eat us up on the inside. We go years, we're married for 10, 20 years, and it's eroded us. And I'm suggesting to you, live in your truth, speak your truth, allow yourself to just speak the words, begin to nurture the articulation of it all, be it all. We have this one life that we know about. Like, push it to a 10. Light it.
What I'm hearing, what I just imagined, like I heard you say, I was like, everywhere that there is disconnection. Because I have lots of couples I work with like this, right? That are 30 years, they barely know each other. Everywhere in your life that there is disconnection, go there and create the fucking connection, right? Go there first with that human. And that's really that simple, isn't it?
It is. It can be. It can be.
It's really that fun.
But and here's why I guess we agree upon this. This is because the human has the ability to adapt. So it can be very resilient. And through that resiliency, we've built this armor. And so we make it over the hill, we make it through the fire, right? But the reality is, once we get on the other side, it's like, can we be lovable? Can we put our guard down to be seen? Can we be vulnerable? And those are the things, because we're going from that dichotomy to the other. And this is why I love sharing my story, because I used to hit people. I'm like, I'm the alpha man, and I'm over here talking about peace and namaste and things like that. Are you kidding me? But as I'm seeing myself, though, like you said, look at me over there doing that. As I'm seeing that, I'm so convinced that other people can do the same thing in whatever facet of their lives that they want to do it in.
Yeah. And so just to round it out, right? Like, let's imagine that everyone in the world discovers Tantra. What's possible? What do you think? I love ending this. Yeah. What do you think? Let's dream it. Let's dream it.
Wow. I think we get to realize the role and the ultimate, like you mentioned, the superpowers that the women play in that creative nature. And I think women get to realize, in a sense, of the man and how the man anchors. I just sailed for like 12 days in the Virgin Islands. And the very interesting thing, we would dock, to whatever island we were on. And when we would put the anchor in, what I noticed overnight was like the boat is just twisting, because we're doing all kinds of practices. We're meditating together and all this type of thing. The boat is just kind of going all over the place. And I like to say that that's the feminine energy, the flow, the creativity of just flowing all over the place, in a sense. The flow, that whole concept we call Shakti. And then when I think of the anchor, is Shiva. It's like, it's the ground. Okay, we're going to make this agreement, and we're going to stay in this space. We're going to stay the course. And then that femininity is going to show us how beautiful it is to get there and to be there, in that dynamic. It's just, that's how I envision it. So in society, the man-woman dynamic begins to soften. It begins to, you begin to really see them for who they are, the essence, for what they are.
Boom.
The power in which they stand in. And then again, like I said, for the men, you begin to see and can acknowledge the role that we play, And I think that when those two powers come together, that yin and yang, now we're on it. That's the homeostasis for the planet. We're on it that way. And that's what we have to get there. Even as you're seeing in society where, the women are in their power, but we have to heal as they're growing and developing in that power, because the women are, they begin to be shocked, they begin to be Kali if they don't have, if it's not honed, in a sense, if it's not healed, in a sense,
I love that. I love that you spoke to that softening of masculine and feminine, right? And I see this a lot in masculine and feminine teachings, where the cis woman, right, will look at the guy and go, you need to be more masculine. You need to be more like this, right? Yeah. See them. They're you. Yeah. See them, right? Yeah. For fuck's sake, see them, right? Yeah. And then we won't have the disconnection and the divide anymore. And that's what I'm hearing you see as possible. And I agree. I think it's already here. We just have to wake up to it. Right. It is here.
It is here. This is why we're having this conversation. And even before we had the conversation, I could see you all through cyberspace.
Right.
I don't know what part of the world you live, but I could see you. I could feel you. And every time I saw your statement comments, I was like, wow, she is on it.
Thank you.
So it's that powerful to call it in, because I reached out to you and say, hey, we need to talk. So it's good.
Amazing. This was so much fun. I'm so glad that you and I got to meet, even though we've met in the ethers already, but it's awesome to meet you in human form, face to face. And you guys just blow it up in the comments for Keith. I bet you guys will have questions. You can tag us. I'll reply. Maybe you can chime in there. And Keith, like, what's next for you? What are you creating? You have a book coming out.
Yes. The
Dope.
Mindfulness Playbook. Yeah, that's exciting. I have an app that we're creating as well. So I'm gonna have a lot of content, whether it be around the physical practice of yoga, mindfulness movements, the meditations. We're gonna have various shows of like, showing other people and their journey to find a more mindfulness way of living or tantric way of living. And when I say mindfulness, for the people who are like, okay, what is mindfulness? It's all the modalities of tantra, the meditations, the yoga. It's all the holistic. It's veganism, because for men, as you transition, you're going to have to consider that diet. And for the women who are cooking for their partners, or however it works for you, the diet is the fuel of not only the consciousness, but also that ability to have that blood flow, that chi, that for you to actually have the actual interaction. So all these concepts coming together, I call it mindfulness. It's a stealth word that kind of goes through like, what is that? So I've been playing with that for a while.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. The present, all there is, right? Mindfulness.
Yes. All there
right
is.
here.
Yes.
All there is. Yes. I love it. So everyone can just, if they're just finding you, they can just follow you on the interwebs.
Yeah. Instagram,
right?
Keith Mitchell 59 is my Instagram, my Facebook. My Twitter is K_Mitchell 59. 59 was my jersey, not my age.
It's fine. You lost 20 years once you started Tantra, so it doesn't matter. Yes, right? We reversed. That's what we did. Yes, we're teenagers, baby. Here we are. I love it. So you guys blow up the comments what you guys heard, what's landing for you, so that we know, so that we can keep feeding you and giving you what you need. And Keith, just thank you so much for your service and coming on tonight. And I'm sure this won't be the first time we meet or the last. But we'll keep playing. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a good night. Bye.
You too.